Happy Monday. Welcome to another fabulous episode of the DunnWisdom Morning Show. My name is Melissa P. Dunn. I'm the CEO of MD Marketing Network, the founder of DunnWisdom, and a candidate for Lauderhill City Commission, seat number 2. So, as you know, this show is really dedicated to sharing with you success stories from entrepreneurs, community leaders, and basically folks who are getting it done in the community. We do this very intentionally so that you perhaps could see what's possible for you and be inspired to redefine what success looks like for you. So this has been some trying times for a lot of us. We are not only in the midst of a pandemic, we are in the midst of an economic crisis. And some would say we're also in the midst of a social justice and political crisis as well. So that means there's a lot of stress. That means that there are a lot of challenges that's happening in most of our lives right now. And with stress comes increased risk of depression and other mental health challenges. So we at the DunnWisdom Morning Show put together a panel, an expert panel of women that's going to kind of guide us through this conversation, perhaps give us some tools to get through it, and also offer some words of wisdom so that we may do more than just survive, so that we may indeed thrive. I want to introduce to you on our very first mental wellness panel, Miss Yolande McCray. She is the CEO of The Healing Place, and I want to ask her to come on right now. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. Again, my name is Yolande McCray, and I am the CEO of The Healing Place, where we promote normalizing wellness for women and treating their post-traumatic stress disorder and postpartum depression. And I also have another hat where I'm the CEO of Julia's Kids, where we help children who have experienced the death of a loved one.
Oh, fantastic. So we're going to be doing a deep dive in postpartum depression as well as managing grief with you as our expert guide.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Yolande. Did I say that right, Yolande, right?
You did, yes.
Okay, perfect. And then our next guest this morning is Miss Annette Morris with the Global Center. Annette is a behavioral health therapist. Hey, Annette.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Annette Morris. I am the owner and CEO of Go Getter LLC. Where it's our primary goal at Go Getter LLC to help women to identify their God-given gift and convert it into a 5 to 7 figure income generating business. A lot of what we do in that particular business, even though I'm a therapist by trade, I help entrepreneurs to develop their behavioral health organizations and to also make sure that they remain in compliance so that they're providing the best services to our communities.
Okay, but in this conversation, you're wearing your therapist hat, please.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So, ladies, what are you seeing? What the clients that you're talking to, the interaction that you're having in the community? What's your sense of how this pandemic and economic crisis is affecting people right now?
I think it's having. I've been talking to quite a few parents, especially those parents that are that made the option to homeschool children or allow their children to learn remotely from home. It's really been stressful and traumatic for both, for the children and for the parents, just because the parents that I work with typically are entrepreneurs that work from home, and then so having kids at home is just like an extra added burden trying to maintain their business and work with their kids. And then for the kids, because they're not in school socializing with their friends, it's almost like a lose-lose situation. So as a parent, you don't really know, if you're even doing the right thing by keeping them home, trying to protect them from COVID. It's also having a mental impact on the kids because they're not in a setting that they're accustomed to being able to socialize and be with their friends. And I think, just the home situation is overwhelming for everybody.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing too. What about you, Yolande? What are you hearing?
Actually, and I'm looking at it from two different realms. So from the maternal side, we have moms that expected this wonderful delivery and wonderful experience and everyone coming to the hospital and that the norm, and they have seriously deviated from the norm because of COVID-19. So that already is perceived as a loss for the mom. So in addition to that, anxiety is very high, hospital procedures, infection, all of these things are going through their head, and it kind of takes away from their birth experience. So what I know they're doing at the bedside is really trying to reassure moms, really try to equip them with what they need mentally, especially the mental support, to be able to say, you know what, I'm still having this baby. This is still a great time in my life. This is still something and a time that I'm going to cherish. For our youth, we see, and there's a double loss. So for example, if they have lost someone during this time, say from March on, there's been a deficit because we can't grieve the same way we used to. Before, everyone would come and you can congregate and you would have that support. But now, it's 10 people and we are opening back up, but you have to understand that a lot of people are used to, okay, someone passes away, we have an influx of people coming to the house, we have food, we have support, we can gather and we can comfort each other. But what's happening now is that that's been taken away. So that being taken away compiled with them not seeing their friends. And then we have to think about when they do go back to school and they do engage with their peers, now they have to explain to them this loss. So mom is not here now, dad is not here now. We lost grandma during this time. So the questions start, and then the grieving process actually restarts for them.
Wow, you know what? I didn't really think about that. It's grieving is something that takes a toll and it takes time. And to think about that process for a child is kind of something that it's challenging to deal with, right? But then the idea that now they go back to school, when school reopens, they'll have to have that conversation again. What tips can you give us if you're in that situation, Yolande?
Talk to your children, talk to them, communicate, let them know, especially after the loss, you need to keep communication and the lines of communication open. Kids are very good at masking their feelings. Everything's okay, I'm fine, especially if they go back into their normal routine. And as adults, we think, okay, they're coping really well with this, but you need to engage them in conversation. I would honestly seek therapy, especially if you notice that a child is already maybe differing in their activities, things of that sort. And we can't wait for them to act out because then we're behind the 8 ball. So really having the conversations, really keeping the emotions and the thoughts fluid. Because once the child feels like, they have to either protect mommy or daddy or whoever is remaining that's taking care of them, then they have shifted into a different role where they're the protector now. So they can't be vulnerable. They can't allow you to see them cry or let them know that you're sad, because then they don't want you to be sad. So what we try to promote, whoever the surviving relative is or whoever's taking care of the children or the child, talk to the child, communicate, let them know that you're there, let them know that it's okay to speak about the death, let them know that sometimes they might be happier, they might be actually enjoying the day, and that's okay. So we want to definitely validate feelings for them.
Oh, I love that. Validate feelings, give them a chance to say or give words to how they feel, right? Instead of stuffing them down. Yeah, well, we know that unfortunately death is a reality for over 200,000 Americans right now because of COVID-19. And so it's important for us to kind of figure out how for us to process that for ourselves as adults, and then how we can also support children in processing that emotion, that grief as well. Good morning. Thank you so much for watching. She's saying this is some good information. Thank you, Micaiah. So Annette, you talked about the stress that parents could, or that some of the parents that you've worked with are experiencing now with the uncertainty of what's happening with the schools and having their children at home. Could you give us a couple words of wisdom as to how they can get through it?
So one of the things is I actually encourage all of my clients to incorporate some type of mental wellness activity on a daily and a consistent basis, right? Because this just kind of helps overall, not even with, just with having the children at home, it helps overall. I myself practice meditation daily, right? Meditation just kind of taking time away from everything and everybody. And sometimes that will require you to wake up earlier than the entire household so that you'll have that me time to yourself and time to meditate and process your day, right? So figuring out what works for you as far as like some type of mental wellness activity and making sure you do that on a consistent and daily basis is what I encourage my clients to do or whatever, even though it's still tough, even when you do those mental wellness activities, especially if you're trying to get readjusted to a new norm. Just kind of sit down and talking with your children and trying to figure out what is the best option. I mean, I was just recently had to face that same dilemma. Brought my son to his pediatrician at the beginning of September. And I'm saying, I'll be glad when Corona is over, so we can get back to, him going to school and this, that, because he really wants to go to school. And she was like, Corona is never going to be over. So it's time for you to make a decision.
Woo, wait, girl. Let's pause right there.
Okay.
Let's let that land for a minute, because we are in a new normal.
Yeah, exactly. And I pretty much put the pause on my life because I'm like, okay, I don't want to move around until Corona is over and this is that or whatever, which was causing me a lot of anxiety because I'm accustomed to traveling and going to different workshops and events and this is that. And I've been sitting inside since March waiting for something to be over that's never going to be over. That was causing me anxiety as a therapist, causing my son anxiety because he's been begging, like, can I go back to school? He's been home since March. And so in talking to her, she was like, and then let me tell you, it's never going to be over. So prepare for life with Corona, with mask and with, with hand sanitizer. And at that point, I was like, so now I have to make a different decision. I felt like I was between a rock and a hard place. Like, do I send him to school? With everything that's going on, this is that or whatever, but it's impacting him even worse with him being at home because he got his, it wasn't a progress, but they, leading up to first quarter grades, they sent home reports and the counselor called me. He was like, he's failing in 2 areas. I just need to know, should I work with him? The school counselor or whatever. I've never gotten a call from my son's school about him struggling in academics. So I was just like, at this point, it's time to make a decision. That's still a tough decision to make. And a lot of parents are going to be plagued with it. What do we do? What's in the best interest of everybody in this particular situation? And then, so, you just have to make the decision understanding that no matter what we decide, this pandemic COVID-19 is not going away. So what decisions do we make operating in a different norm, like with the mask, with the hand sanitizers, these are the decisions that we have to make now and not sit around waiting like I'm waiting for Corona to go away, because it's not.
Wow. Man, Annette, that is so powerful. You know what? Because you're right. I think a lot of us, hey, Lynn, yeah, she's absolutely right. That's a word. I think a lot of us are kind of waiting for us to quote unquote get back to normal, to get back on the airplane or to take the vacation or to go to the beach or to do some of the normal things that we're used to doing. And I mean, that you just dropped some really powerful words for me personally, because well, you know what? This is the new normal. Now what?
Right.
And she's saying, Micaiah, I hope I can't see that's a K or
it's Malika.
L.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's saying my son is now struggling for the first time as well. Well, how did you handle your situation? Maybe
actually today was my son's first day back to school. I just literally sat down with him, coached him. I'm like, listen, son, I'm willing to allow you to go back to school, because at this point, if Corona is never going to be over, am I going to hold him home indefinitely forever? You know what I mean? Because it's never going away. Or am I going to let him adjust to the new norm, right? And I'm stressing to him the importance of, because he had an aunt and an uncle. The aunt died in April and her husband died a couple of months later. Both of them died of Corona. And as you said, he couldn't go to the funeral because they had to keep the funeral small, just with very immediate family, that type of thing. So he couldn't even process with his family. So I'm just, stressing to him, like, this has already impacted your family, son. You have to keep your mask on. I gave him hand sanitizers. I gave him wipes. He has his mask. You have to go and making sure you're just following all the protocols to keep yourself safe and to keep us safe for when you come back home with the rest of your family. So just talking to him, I'm trusting you to be a responsible teenager. He's 15 years old. Just constantly having that talk with him and coaching him and pray. That's all you can really do. At the end of the day, pray and coach him and then let them go on with resuming life. Because again, he is really struggling with being at home and trying to adapt to doing school from home.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw he had to go to school to drop off a project. He's had to go to drop off a project twice during the school year. And when I'm looking at him coming out to school, he's like so happy. His whole countenance has changed when he comes out. Wow. I saw my friends, this is that or whatever. And it really broke my heart. Like last week when I brought him, I'm like, I have to make a decision because he is miserable. He's miserable. Mm-hmm. So just letting him resume with life with all precautions and praying, just a lot of prayer. That's all we can do.
A lot of prayers, a lot of prayers. I want to go back to that last statement, Natasha, before we go, but I do have a question. So, Yolande, you just heard Annette kind of share that what her son is going through. What tips could you offer for them going back to school now? How does he have that conversation about losing his aunt and his uncle?
That honestly is guided by the child. What I see a lot of kids say, I'm tired of people asking me what happened to my mom or what happened to my dad. They have to first understand how they want it to come off. Some kids are ready to share and ready to open up. What I do encourage is parents to talk to the school counselors, because they're going to be the ones that, if the child, and the teachers are very, very, they understand if the child is acting out of the norm. And this was when we were obviously back in school, but they would sense something. So if the communication is not there between the parent and the counselor, then that's a breakdown. So talk to the counselors at the school, let them know that there has been a lost experience. I also encourage parents to talk to the pediatricians, anyone that is going to be involved in the child's care after the loss, because the more people that are in the loop, the better they would be able to understand. So they can give the child some timeouts, or they can say, you know what, let me know if you need a break. Let me know if this is overwhelming. If they're talking about topics that may be triggers, then let me know. I can allow you to step out, all of those things. But we need to allow the child to kind of run that course themselves with telling their peers. Because I've had patients that say, you know what, nobody knows that, my dad died, and I don't want them to know. And that's okay. We cannot force the kids to share the information. When they're ready to open up, they will with their peers. But on the other side of it, when you do take them to a therapist or support groups, which is what Julia's kids have, the kids are more open to sharing because they're in a room full of people that have experienced what they've experienced. So you're not going to feel awkward crying, or you're not going to feel awkward sharing your story, sharing how you felt at the funeral, sharing how, the last encounter was, things of that sort.
And the support group that you offer for kids who are grieving, is that virtual right now?
It is virtual right now. Our next session actually is on October 16th. And it's open to all children who've experienced the death of a loved one. It can be mom, dad, grandparents, aunt, uncle, because we know that the family support system is definitely inclusive of all of those members.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll make sure that we put that number up so that if you have a child in your family or a child that who are experiencing grief, we can get them access to that support. Natasha, could you put up that question again that the audience member was asking? She wants to know, how do we as parents learn to manage work and now becoming a teacher?
I think that we just have to compartmentalize everything. Just as we did as a full-time entrepreneur, I compartmentalize my entire day. Like my mental wellness comes absolutely first. I wake up before my entire household at 4 a.m. Make sure I meditate, I pray, I read my scripture, I read my book. I do all that at the beginning of the day, and then my day flows from there. So I think that we just kind of have to make sure we compartmentalize our days and work it around our children's schedules. It's difficult, but keeping in mind, even if you decide to keep them at home and they do virtual learning, a lot of that is facilitated by a teacher on the other end or whatever. So we can still do our work and as entrepreneurs or whatever around their schedule, because it's not requiring as much input of us, as it would if you were doing like the homeschooling yourself. If they're online doing virtual learning, it's facilitated by a teacher on the other end. So just making sure you block your days off and space off that's separate from them. Because like I would have my son, I had him to go set up downstairs so that he's away from his bedroom, so that it's not like he's comfortable in his bedroom trying to do schoolwork or whatever. So, and I have my space upstairs in my room working. But just, just to know that, hey, I got to, make sure I go downstairs every other hour to check on him, every hour to check on him or whatever, make sure he's doing what he has to do in class. It's a lot. So just kind of making sure that you make space for everything. That's all you can really do with all of the different roles.
Yeah, time blocking is a lifesaver. Whether you are a mom, a working mom, a stay-at-home mom, or entrepreneur, time blocking, honey, it frees up a lot of space. And the other thing you said too, Annette, that I think is really powerful is having that morning routine. So Lynn is saying socializations help us learn. I find ways to replace the usual social experience with others. That's a good tip. Thank you for that, Lynn. That's a really good tip. So you were talking a while ago, Yolande, about the experience that an expected mom could be going through right now. And I'm thinking, my gosh, you can imagine the internal conversation to find out, especially in the very beginning of coronavirus, when there was so much unknown, there was so much fear. I could just imagine those women that gave birth in March.
Yeah,
right?
I actually, my sister-in-law gave birth in April, and it was, I mean, we were glued to our phones because, again, people that were supposed to be there, we couldn't be there. And so we're trying to get a play-by-play. And it's like, you feel like everybody should be at the hospital. This is such a great time. We should be here, and you kind of felt a loss. You felt like, okay, so this great thing has happened. And yes, we're seeing video. Yes, we're seeing, pictures and things of that sort, but you wanted to be there. You wanted to give the congratulations hug. You wanted to hold the baby. You wanted to do all of those things. But even after they came home, it was still a waiting period because yes, anxiety is very high. You don't want to be the one that brought it over there. And what we have to realize too is that if you are not an anxious person before COVID, you have become an anxious person. And anxiety is on the increase now. And it's situational anxiety because yes, nobody wants to catch the disease or catch COVID, the virus. And the thing is that we also want to be safe. It has caused us to do a lot of self-reflection. So self-reflection on our own health, self-reflection on, am I really as safe as I want to be, as I can be? Do I have the resources? If I don't have the resources, and that's financially as well as physically, how am I going to get them? So it has put us into a different space. And especially for our moms who, yes, this is especially if you're a first time mom. And like I said, you have this birth plan, you have this great thought in your head about what's supposed to happen. We know that sometimes the OB doctors were not able to be open. So you were having virtual visits. So I would talk to moms that say, I had a virtual visit with my OB, and that at least brought them some comfort because they at least knew that, their OB was still out there. Even though they weren't having the face-to-face visits, they still felt security. Re-educating moms to do your kit counts and things of that sort, because moms were concerned, like, what if something's happening to my baby and I can't get to the hospital, or I can't get to the doctor, or, so it was a lot. It is still a lot going on, even as we're, trying to transfer back into going to the offices.
Are you noticing an uptick in postpartum depression?
I am. And it's honestly because in addition to having this new baby, in addition to this new lifestyle, it's very overwhelming. And that's what I've heard most. So a lot of moms will not say, I'm experiencing postpartum depression. What I hear is, I feel overwhelmed. I've never felt like this before, especially if this is a second or third child. I feel helpless. I feel hopeless. I feel like nobody understands what I'm going through. And a lot of what I want to say too with that is that the support system definitely matters, because even though, and I know for some people, moms will say, I'll start crying and I don't even know why I'm crying. And I think I'm going crazy. And the first thing I tell them is, you're not going crazy. This is something that happens. And sometimes, yes, you can't explain why you're crying, but you do want somebody to be there to say it's going to be okay. And if you don't have that support, it gets worse. So we do find that 1 in 7 women right now are experiencing postpartum depression, but it's compiled and it's exacerbated by the support system or lack thereof. So the more support you have, the more outlets you have to talk and to decompress, the better.
Wow. So my takeaway from what I'm hearing you ladies say is, first, put on your own mask, make sure that you have a routine of self-care, self-love, and just kind of managing your own mental wellness. And then the second thing I'm hearing you say is to speak up, speak out, speak to your children, have conversations. And then third is kind of reaffirm or strengthen your support system so that you have a place to land if you need to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there signs that we should be looking for? Because we all go through emotional upheaval, right? We all have things throughout our day that make us feel some sort of negative emotion, whether it's sadness or frustration, feeling overwhelmed. What are the signs to look for if it's kind of creeping further into depression or something that, listen, this is a red flag, maybe I need to seek a therapist?
So I think once you get to the point where you're literally outside of your norm, it's okay to say, hey, look, I need help. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times we as women will continue to go because we feel like, oh, we have to take care of our kids, we have to do this and that or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we do so much for others, and it's to our demise. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to sacrifice your whole entire mental and physical well-being for the sake of taking care of others and not getting anything for yourself. The old people used to say you can't pour from an empty glass. You have to pause and refill at some point, and get back to you. You know what I mean? So once you notice, and I think it's important that of us as friends or associates of other women, when you see that they've gotten outside of their norm, even if it's social media posts, and I'm thinking of an experience that I had just last week. Reach out to that person and just be like, just checking on you. I'm praying for you, praying that things are going well. One of my Facebook friends, and she and I are more than Facebook friends, but not actually friends, but I support her business in some ways. And, we have another connection. But I noticed that because she's really like a humorous type person or whatever. So I noticed that she wasn't joking a lot on Facebook. She made a sudden change in her business. And then something else happened, and I was like, for some reason, she's off, like she's not her normal self. And so I reached out to her offline. I texted her. I was like, are you going? Is everything okay or whatever? I'm here if you need to talk. Blah blah blah. And this is that. And she loaded, like she was like, and then I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm trying to homeschool. The same thing or whatever. What I'm talking about or whatever. So she just dumped a whole lot on me, and I say, I completely understand where you are. And consider this. And I told her the same thing that I said at the beginning of the show, resuming life back to getting some sense of normalcy or whatever. Because trust me, it's not just, she was like, I feel like I'm on the edge of having a nervous breakdown. I said, in which you possibly are. So what are you willing to do now to take care of yourself so that you're not having a nervous breakdown? You have to do something for you, right? And so she was saying, like, she's considering sending her child back to school. I said, she has a pediatrician appointment tomorrow. I say, talk to the pediatrician tomorrow, ask her recommendation. But we have to get back into the mindset of getting back to life, traveling, all the things that we did, just making sure we exercise the precaution, because understanding that Corona is never going away. So how do we operate and get back to life in that mind frame? So, just noticing the signs, noticing when your friends are not in their normal activity. If they're not posting like they used to, if they're not doing the same things that they used to, they're probably sinking into some form of depression. Reach out, throw out the lifeline, reach out, make a call, send a text, do something, but reach out to them.
That's a great tip. Yeah, that's a great tip. I'm actually going through my mental list right now of folks that might be wise for me to just call and say, hey girl, what's up? Are you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Yolande? What do you suggest?
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what Annette said, it is definitely noticeable changes. So what we look at is anything that's happening beyond 2 weeks. So if there's been a change in your sleep pattern, change in your eating pattern, and this can be overeating or undereating, not feeling like you want to do things that you truly enjoy. And we have to look at that with some subjectivity as well, because outdoor activities and things of that sort that have just started, getting back open and things like that, if you say, okay, now we're open, I can go out and enjoy those things, then we wouldn't put you in that category. But we have to understand that when people are depressed, there's a heaviness. So, and that heaviness, because it's often described as, I cannot get out of the bed. It's not that I don't want to, it's I can't get out of the bed. So if you can't get out of the bed, you can't get dressed, you can't comb your hair, you cannot leave the house, things of that sort, and that continuous mind frame, then you need to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you for that. So ladies, I know that you're each in private practice. Yolande, I'm going to ask you for your final word of wisdom, and then also mention how people can work with you. I know you offer your services virtually, your therapy services virtually. Could you kind of wrap up 30 seconds to talk about that?
Definitely. So yes, if you are a mom or a mom that is experiencing postpartum depression, please reach out to us at thehealingplacepllc.com. That you'll be able to send emails. Also, my number is there, so you'd be able to get into contact that way. And for Julia's Kids, please check us out at Julia's Kids. We're on Instagram, and you'll be able to register for our October 16th Zoom meeting once we put that up on there as well. I do want to leave people with my three targets. So stop, assess, reach out. Because we need to live in our reality. A lot of the times we are anxious and there are things that are going around that we have absolutely no control over. So I want you to stop, assess what's going on. And at that time, you figure out what can you control, what can you not control. And then if there are things that you feel like, I might need some help with this because I'm not okay, you need to reach out.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And would you do me a favor? And once you have that Zoom information set up for the children, would you share that with me? I'm happy to share it in the community because I think that would really support a lot of kids who may be experiencing grief. So we'll definitely help you to share that information in the community, and then also I'm happy to share it through my network as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Annette, your final words of wisdom and maybe 30 seconds of how people can work with you.
Hey, everyone. I can be reached on my website is www.goalgetterforever.com. I am on Facebook and on Instagram as well. Goal_getter_university on Instagram, Goal Getter LLC on Facebook, and Annette Goal Getter Morris is my personal information on all platforms. The thing that I just want to encourage you all to do is to take care of yourself and get back to life. This is all that we can do at this point. Again, COVID is never going away. So figure out how you can transition yourself back into your regular life with all precautions in place. Make sure you have your face mask, your hand sanitizer, all that stuff, and get back to life. Getting back to life is going to help you mentally and physically. So it's okay to resume living your life.
I love that. It's okay to resume living your life. Ladies, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And yeah, I appreciate what you do. Keep serving.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you for watching this special mental wellness episode of the DunnWisdom Morning Show. I do want to point out that if you're in Miami-Dade County School Board created a mental health department specifically as a result of the pandemic. So they do have resources available. So if your child is experiencing stress, if your child experienced a loss, do make sure that you reach out to the school counselors. Same thing in Broward County or anywhere that you're listening to or watching the show. If your child has experienced a loss or any kind of stress, do communicate with your pediatrician to get guidance from them, and then also reach out to your school counselors. I thought that was brilliant advice. And as a mom and a dad, I want you to remember to put on your mask first, so to speak. So take care of your own mental wellness and give from your overflow. All right. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. with another episode, continuing our My Success Book Club. We're going to be meeting another author, and you know I love those types of conversations. Remember, Be kind and loving to yourself today. Take care of you so that you can take care of your family. Be well. See you tomorrow.